This is a detail of my story that I rarely ever tell people, but one night when I was 10 years old, my sister and I decided to watch a movie together on the Disney Channel about a boy who used a wheelchair. It was the first time I had ever really thought about what it would be like not to be able to walk. I remember being awake late that night thinking about how terrible and just unfathomably difficult that would be to go through. Exactly a week later, my mom and I were in a car accident, and when I regained consciousness in a hospital bed, they told me that I had been paralyzed from the waist down and would never walk again. It just goes to show that sometimes things happen in our lives that we never in a million years would think would happen to us. And then they do, and we're left to pick up the pieces and figure out how we are going to move on. But let's take a step back. For most of my life, it had just been my mom and I. After my parents divorced, my father remarried, and while I saw him and his family every other weekend, for the most part, it was just my mom and I together, taking on the world. We had already faced some challenges trying to get to the stable place that we were in, but we had finally seemed to reach the light at the end of the tunnel. I was at a great school, we had a church support group that surrounded us, and we had just bought a new house. Things were looking up, but destiny seemed to have a different plan. When we were driving home from church after rehearsing a song to sing the next Sunday, we were hit by a truck, and the back of the car had collapsed on top of me, and I had been thrown forward so violently that the seatbelt smashed against my spine. Because I was so badly injured and profusely bleeding, the doctors didn't expect me to live through the night, but somehow I survived. After months of being in a rehabilitation hospital, I finally was able to come home. Home to a house that I couldn't get into because there were too many stairs. Home to a school that said they would make no adaptations to be accessible for me to continue to attend. Home to a church that said the car accident had been a punishment from a fault of my own. And home to people who were close to us that suddenly turned their backs. Now, while the numerous physical challenges I was facing were certainly difficult, it was the emotional pain that was breaking me down. I would smile to the world all day long, but would never let anyone see the demons I was fighting on the inside. It's like I was ashamed of who I was, and I felt like I would become a burden on others and was constantly afraid of how they would react to me, to the point that fear began to control my life. I withdrew from trying new things, from pursuing new interactions, even from simply speaking too loud. I was afraid of making others uncomfortable from the mere mention of my situation. My disability wasn't that I used a wheelchair. My disability came from my paralyzing fear. After years of being held back, I knew that there had to be something more. When I was 15, I went to a spinal cord injury recovery center in Detroit. For the first time, I interacted with others in wheelchairs who I could relate to and share my story with, and I didn't feel so alone. After returning home, I began the journey of finding my voice, of building confidence in myself, and seeing the amazing potential of a life that I could live beyond the fear and shame, a life where I wasn't bound to the scars of my past. With this new sense of strength and confidence, I began to thrive. I now live independently and drive with my own car. I just graduated from college and actually walked to get my diploma with leg braces. I've traveled on my own to Germany, to working at an orphanage for children with disabilities in Mexico, and I do all kinds of adventure sports like skiing and surfing and paddleboarding and even skydiving because I'm a little crazy. And I just have learned to live, and through this passion, Live Boundless was born. And now, as Miss Wheelchair USA, I'm ready to take my advocacy to the next level. I am partnering with a production company called Productions in a Box in Wilmington, North Carolina, to film a 25-part Live Boundless series that will encourage people to live a boundless life, from showing wheelchair users how they can adapt back to normal life, meanwhile showing people from all kinds of different backgrounds that you are not bound to your circumstances. It is your response to them that will be the deciding factor in whether you let them limit you or not. We're about to embark on an incredible journey of traveling around the nation to show how to create an unstoppable mentality and make the most of whatever we are given in this life. So tell me, are you ready to live boundless?